Keep it down. I hereby call the 13 June meeting of the Des Moines Environment Committee to order. The first order of business is approval of the minutes from the May meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Great. The minutes are approved. Moving on to item number 2, we will have a presentation on Public Works Yard groundwater remediation update.
Thank you, Chair. Tyler Beakley, Surface Water Manager. I will briefly give a background of this topic and then go into recent efforts, finally where we're looking ahead in the years to come on this project. City has been working on remediation efforts in the shop right behind us for many years now, over 30 years, back when 2 fuel tanks were removed and found to be leaking and leaching into the soil beneath the site. Initial efforts was removing contaminated soil and getting it off site, then launching into a groundwater cleanup project, which has 31 years later, we're still looking to clean up those levels, but getting closer. If you look at attachment 1 of the item, it's a map of the site. It shows the text is, apologies, a little hard to read there, but in between the 2 shops or offices, you see the 2 fuel tanks that were removed. So that's your general location. Also on that map are the 15 monitoring wells that were drilled in the first 10 years of this project to monitor groundwater and these contaminants of concern over the years and track them to state cleanup levels. So there's wells both on the King County, Water District 54 property and the City of Des Moines property monitoring cleanup levels. We are in a voluntary cleanup program with Department of Ecology, so we send an annual report to them each year stating our progress as we get closer to achieving these cleanup levels. We are down to 2 wells now out of the 15 that are above levels. So great progress from in the last few years. Each year it seems we have a couple wells that drop off the list and achieve cleanup levels. So we're kind of narrowed our focus to well 3 and well 14, which are shown on the map there if you are curious about their location. Specifically, it's gasoline and benzene concentrations in those 2 wells that we're looking to clean up. So to more aggressively tackle this and to close down the site, that's the end goal here, is to get approval from Ecology to close down the site and ultimately protect the environment, get clean groundwater. We did a sort of probe investigation. That is the MIHPT MIPT investigation. That stands for Membrane Interface Hydraulic Profiling Tool. Essentially, it's a probe they send to the ground. It measures contamination at different points within the groundwater and can create this 3D map of what we're looking at for contaminants. So we did that in April of 2022. That showed us a hot spot of where the contaminants are the strongest behind the shop area near well 14. Indicated, yes, this is why it's correlating here where our monitoring is showing those higher levels. And that leads into the second item of our recent efforts was our ISCO injections, which stands for in situ chemical oxidation. Essentially, it's a solution that goes in there and can eat away at these contaminants at an accelerated level than naturally they would degrade. So it accelerates the decomposition of these chemicals. We recently did this just in this April, and we did 23 borings in that hotspot area and injected the solution into the ground, and we are waiting on results of that. We're optimistic that we're going to see, talking to our consultant and the environmental experts here, that the first monitoring after, you'll start seeing results from this injection. So we're hoping for immediate success in these 2 wells, and potentially we can start a closeout on the next monitoring. They just were out there monitoring yesterday for the first time after. So hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll see where those results lead us. So I'll just jump right into where we're going from here. So obviously we want to continue monitoring, see what our cleanup levels, if we get closer with these recent injections. If not, we want to evaluate with our consultant if more injections are necessary, how successful they were, if the groundwater makes sense to do this, or maybe explore other means to help accelerate getting to a cleanup level. Let's see here. Yeah, once we do obtain cleanup levels, we need 4 quarters of clean levels before we can go to ecology to get approval for no further action, close down the site as an active cleanup site. And last 2 notes here. Last one is we just intend to stay in this voluntary cleanup program with ecology and show good faith for cleanup until we do achieve this, regardless of the timeline effort here. And lastly is we are taking a different consulting approach where the more aggressive we get at tackling this, the more money it does cost for a consultant support to do these injections. So we may be coming to council in the future this year, maybe in the future next year, where before these consultant agreements have been around below that council threshold. So just an FYI, we may be coming to council with these task orders if they exceed that 50K mark in the future. That concludes my staff presentation.
Colleagues, questions, comments?
Yes, thank you. How far off are we as far as, I mean, you've got two wells that are showing hot spots. Yeah, I mean, are they severe hot spots or are they dissipating as we go?
Yeah, so I'm going to say we're very close. It's hard to put a timeline on it, but these last 2 wells fluctuate above and below the threshold for cleanup levels. So they're not way above; they're right on the line. So they need 1 year of sampling of results below that line. So potentially, if we get good results on this sampling that was just done, it could be 1 year from now where we officially can initiate that closeout with ecology. So as soon as 1 year.
Thank you.
My only question is anecdotal, and stop me if you've heard this before, but, you know, years ago, we paid we thought it was a fortune to, fill in an old oil furnace thing underground, but you paid a one-time fee and, and said fairly well. Has the regulatory standard changed over the years, or is it literally just that, groundwater rises and falls and so on?
Yeah, I would say it's more of the later, and ecology, we follow their cleanup guidelines in all of this and per their mandate. And again, we're in a voluntary program where these cleanup levels they're not being imposed on us. We're trying to clean this up on our own accord and own effort.
Yeah, but it's not like a moving target over time. I mean.
No, it's been fairly consistent, at least in the time that I've been on this project.
Okay, I just vaguely remember how Lauren would say, I think we're there, and then
Yes.
it sort of came back.
And this was the sort of fluctuation of, he would see all the wells drop, and then the next quarter they'd come back up again. So it is this rising and falling of the groundwater, as you said.
Okay, thank you very much. I gotta press the button again. And moving forward, item 3, capital improvement plan project update.
Absolutely. I will take this item as well, and I will move through these fairly quickly as a lot of these updates haven't changed since the last time we briefed committee on projects, capital improvement projects. So I'm going to jump right into it with those in construction currently. At the top of the list there, we have our Kent Des Moines Road Culvert Replacement Project. This project is 99% completed. This was the large culvert placed under Kent Des Moines Road, led by WashDOT. We're still waiting for final paving, final lift. We've seen a few complaints of the road condition out there. We remind citizens this isn't the final state. They are going to come back and get us a nice, smooth, great highway there. So the update, though, is just today that they're looking at next, I think, June 21st and 22nd to do this paving. Still tentative, but we might receive confirmation tomorrow, and then we'll send out road closure notices so they can do the final paving. Jumping to 24th, This is a transportation-led project, but stormwater is included as we had a few improvements related, and we are a funding partner on that project. As you know, that project is in suspension currently, but we're receiving word that could start as early as next week, being back into working on the 24th corridor there.
Yeah, that project was suspended due to some utility conflicts and the power and communications. They have moved their poles, and so we did get confirmation from the contractor that they intend to start work out there next Wednesday.
Great news. So on the First Avenue pump replacement project, this is another one that is nearly complete. We're just waiting for the final piece to be installed by our contractor, which is the pump floats. So everything else went successful. The new pumps are in, they're operational. The control cabinet's in, it's operational. And again, this is the First Avenue pond, just adjacent to Normandy Park off of First. So we'll be entering closeout on that one soon, and that may even be off the list the next time we bring CIP updates to committee. The newest project in construction is Kent Des Moines Road, 16th Avenue South, Segment A pipe project. This one just went to council for construction contract approval, which was awarded to Harkness Harkness Construction. We've had a pre-construction meeting with the contractor and an on-site pre-construction meeting with the contractor and property owner, which the city has an easement on for the project. Both of those went well, and we're anticipating construction start in July. Into planning, engineering, and right-of-way phase projects for our combined Des Moines Memorial Drive, 208th to 212th, and 216th Place and Marine View Drive pipe upgrade project. We are on the final stages of design, right close to completing permitting, right close to completing 100% design. Maybe in the next month and a half, we'll have everything 100%. It is an awkward time to have 100% plans. We'd normally like to be in the spring, well into the spring, to go out to bid. We've been talking to our various consultants to get a kind of a temperature out there on the bidding climate, and we've received word that late projects are getting good results, and this project, we may entertain going to bid for a fall through winter to spring on this project. Typically we haven't done that, but again, getting word from consultants is they think that might be a good shot to get a good bid, and people are looking for work out there. So we're still entertaining that and talking with consultants, but we may go that direction. Jumping down to our Deep Dean outfall project on 260th off of Marine View Drive. This is our outfall that drains to the sound from a private neighborhood. Very similar to the last project where we're in this final permitting, final design stage. We'll probably have it in a month or two. This one, due to the steep slopes, almost certain we're gonna push this into next summer to do construction. We just missed that window this year on getting everything finalized. So that'll be on the list till next summer, and then that'll give us more time to just wrap it up neatly, go at a bid early, get a good price, all that. Lastly, lastly for what's in planning is our two estuary projects. We have Massey Creek Estuary and Des Moines Creek Estuary. These are both of them still in preliminary engineering. Both of them are operating off of King County grants with consultant support, and still working through different alternatives, which we eventually present to this committee once we narrow down some logistics and site constraints to narrow in what's feasible, what's realistic for both these estuaries. And then lastly, the last category is what projects are looking for grant funding. We just submitted a King County Flood Control District grant for the 6th Place and 287th Street pipe project. This is a new project to the list that is slated to begin design in 2025, construction in 2026, and is down in Redondo off of Soundview Drive, and fix a slew of sort of drainage problems down there where we have some localized flooding in large rain events. We have streets that don't have runoff, and this kind of, if you saw a map of this project, stretches wide across the Soundview. And then, not on the list, but I mentioned it as Tommy reminded me, is Stormwater has applied for a grant for the Marina Steps, for the water treatment portion of the project. It's a pretty cool grant where we have an opportunity to test new pollutants of concern. So we can test the new 6-PPDQ, which is a pollutant that has highlighted in harming coho and pre-spawn mortality rates, and also PCBs. So this grant would let us put new technologies, new materials into the bioretention cells here, and be kind of a leading edge in testing these, and hopefully get good results and share them regionally. So we could, look at new medias that might be able to take these pollutants out of stormwater. And we've submitted that grant, and we're waiting for results. We're pretty hopeful we're going to be successful on that one. So I will open it up to questions as that concludes my remarks.
Colleagues, questions, comments?
It sounds like you already did some of the conversation about the street pipe project in Redondo. Can you tell me a little bit more? Is that taking water off the street and down into a pipe, or what is the ultimate goal there?
Yeah, it achieves a few goals, and without a map, it's going to be hard to really place it, but there we go. So we have the condominiums here on 6th Place. Part of the project is putting drainage on 6th Place before the condos where it's not currently located. And then there's a private connection that takes public water on 6th Place, routes it through the condos, back down to Soundview.
Okay.
So we are gonna clean up this mess and get it back in our control, working with the condos and replace that section, undersized. They have groundwater issues. And also the neighbors right below the condos where there's a daylighted section of the stream, we're gonna divert some of the flow away from that to take water away from any sort of overflow that they've experienced. And then also along Soundview, right off of 287th, both north and south, we're adding pipe along the roadway where there currently isn't any.
Oh, okay.
And then finally, north end, there's a open right-of-way between Redondo Beach Drive and Soundview that has old, undersized drainage going through it, and we're gonna replace that section. So it achieves a multitude of goals, and this is one of the projects that's been in our high priority comp plan, and we actually bumped it up ahead of schedule due to some recent concerns down there. So yeah, we're happy to get this on the books, and hopefully we get this grant to help support the budget.
Are there other broken parts of Soundview? It sounds like you don't have a line that goes the entire length if there's a section that's missing.
So the new sections are just historically never had drainage. So the road runoff just went straight off into the neighboring neighboring homeowners' property, and that was by design back then. So we are now adding pipe and this opportunity that we're in the area to put pipe where it's not. The rest of it is upsizing, diversion, and replacing old aging pipe. Yep.
And you called it public, the one that was put in by the condo, was that when it was built? Or how old was that?
I don't know the history on that one. I'd have to get back to you on that, on who originally placed it. I believe since this was old annexed from the county, they probably installed it, didn't put the proper easement on it, and the condo since moved in. So we're hoping to rectify that.
That could be, okay.
Yes.
And then I heard you say some of it is daylighted and it will remain daylighted, or it's gonna be replaced?
Correct. The daylighted portion will remain daylighted, but we're gonna divert some of the water that was flowing into the daylighted portion to decrease the flow
I see.
in rain events.
Volume. Okay.
The volume, correct.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for testing my memory and my recall.
I would just want to say so it's along 5th is where the open end of it is. You might want to check because the property owners all along there have state granted water rights.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not aware of that, so that's something to look into.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to thank you. I know it's been, you guys have, it's just amazing the challenges you've had with that particular area. It's been a lot of, I call it the Wild West, a lot of this stuff, you know, pre-annexation, and thank you very much. And with that, we move on to item 4, I guess, which is the START update. And we are very happy to have the SeaTac Airport Roundtable community members, Joe Dusenbury and Steve Novak, and thank you for taking time out of your day. And is there somebody from the city, or do we just want to carry forward? I guess we're carrying forward. Okay. Yeah, please tell us what you think about what you've been doing so far.
Few opening remarks.
Please.
First of all, thanks for appointing us. I guess I'm speaking for Steve too. Yeah. Thanks for appointing us. It's to the START. It's even though we're only into it like 3 months, it's been a real learning experience. We've got PowerPoint presentations that these are things that have come to the committee in the last 3 months. I thought I'd just go over them briefly and add a few comments. And I just qualify, my disclaimer is, first of all, dealing with this issue that's important to all of us. It can be daunting a little bit. It can be discouraging. So one thing that's really apparent is that the people out there are all well-meaning, very intelligent people. They do a great job of running our airport here under some, very constrained circumstances. So if I sound, none of my comments are in any way meant to disparage the people that are out there and the jobs they're doing. But still, this is a very one-sided relationship. So just that disclaimer, like I tell my wife, or my wife reminds me as I walk out the door, don't sound like a grumpy old man. So anyway, I'll just kind of take these in order. Steve, can you jump in anywhere?
Yeah, just so everybody knows, we've had long discussions about this already, so we're on the same page. And we independently came together at the same, because we're on Zoom, and we're listening, we're not together, we're hearing things on our own headset. And we're in the same meetings, and we came out of it with the same, conclusion as to where we're at. It has been for me drinking from a fire hose a little bit, because I didn't understand any of this when I got started. So I'm just now starting to crest somewhat of a learning curve on it to get my bearings. But anything Joe says is, I'll echo it.
The first one is the sound installation and repair replacement program. I think everybody's heard about it. They are into this program. They've started it. They've got some money, a total budget of $6.5 million. What they're trying to do is go back and the study's goal is to go back and take a look at the sound packages that they've installed, some of them 20, 25 years ago, see how they're performing now. They call, I think the wording is failed packages, so obviously there's some problems people are reporting. They're again, you can see from the timeline, they're well into it. They've started to get some of the surveys back, and I did bring a copy of the survey. It's pretty lengthy if anybody wants to see it, or you may have already seen it. They're sending it out to homeowners in selected areas where they've installed the packages before.
And I will jump in one time. This is the Holy Grail map, where if you're inside now, the red, you're a candidate for the sound insulation. You can see where it was in 2018, and it shrunk, or in 1998, and now where it is in 2018, and they're going to go through the study to reset that again, and I don't believe it's probably going to get bigger. It's going to get smaller.
Yeah.
So people that are eligible for this are within that small little sock that's around the Des Moines area.
Just,
the DNL, 65, which is 65 decibels.
If I may, for whoever is, just originally, they did their first Part 150 in 85, and originally, sound insulation was supposed to head south as far as Star Lake, and as far north almost to like Tukwila, the golf course. And now, it's barely at 240th Kent Des Moines Road. You have a situation where if you're anywhere west of like 10th Avenue in North Hill, you don't qualify. It's this, so it's just.
And they have hired the same consultants to rerun the algorithm and with all the testing equipment. So that is what the port has done. And they will be working on their collecting all their data collection and providing that report to the port. And like we said, I don't think it's gonna get bigger, it's gonna get smaller.
just kind of a global comment, and again, it's my opinion. I think the big issue that they're gonna run into is a lot of these packages went in 20 years ago. And if you take a look at the survey, it's focused, a lot of the focus is on windows. You know, windows are the things that move. They're the things that they tend to have problems with. So a lot of windows are failing. And so I think the issue, and we'll hear more about this as it rolls out, but I wouldn't be surprised if the port, you know, I guess the question is, if they do this one time, does that sort of obligate them to maintain this sound insulation forever? As long as there's airplanes flying, are they responsible for insulating these homes? And if the package fails, like the windows are starting to fail, are they obligated to replace those? Or is that, hey, we put them in, we can't help it, they only last 20 years, the seals start to fail, and pretty soon you can't see out your windows. That's not our problem. So I wouldn't, you know, as a citizen, what I would be telling my neighbors is if you have failed windows, you know, just fill out the form and send it in, but they're not so far guaranteeing that they're going to replace failed windows.
And just one thing that I try to keep it simple for myself to understand, so we can relate something to it when they call it the DNL 65. That's 65 dB. So if you look up on Google real quick, you'll see if you're having a conversation 3 feet away from the person you're speaking to at a normal voice, that's 65 dB. So if but you're in your house, and if an airplane is louder than that conversation at 3 feet, then this could expand. But if you're in your house and you got you know, I've tried it, you can still have a conversation. So 65, if they lowered it to 60, that will, if the threshold is 60, it makes the map get bigger. If I asked them, what if it was 50, the consultants, and they said it would be out in the water. So that's a point of reference for me, a conversation in your house at 65. If you're being interrupted by an airplane, then you're within the red. When what used to be the blue back in '98. We got to get that number down if we want to grow it.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a question with regard to the contour, though. It says the contours are smaller due to the quieter aircraft. If the completion of 509 is to bring more freight to the airport, which is going to require, you know, more cargo planes, those tend to be older jets that have the louder, that are louder. I mean, is this being taken into account?
Actually, we saved that one for last, so we'll.
Okay.
So there's some sheets that sort of explain how they arrive at those numbers, and the short answer is yes, but.
They know all the airplanes.
Yeah.
They know the noise they make. They know what a 777X makes, a 737 MAX, an A320 Neo, the later generation planes that have sound deadening in their engine nacelles for their aircraft. But the older MD-11s that FedEx is flying at nighttime, they're pretty loud. But they do account for that.
The next presentation that we received, this START operations update. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, did you have something else? No, I said. Oh.
The next one is a start operations update, and that's very simple. I think the message is pretty basic. They're back to 2019 levels, pre-pandemic levels, so we're there. There's a page on this 2024 IATA summer schedule. This was a surprise for us. We went to the meeting, and again, this is an example of, the start is where the airport comes to tell the community what they've already done. And they've already scheduled in probably in 2023, there was 2 carriers coming in those late night hours at 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. to 2 or 3 in the morning. There's now 7 that are scheduled to start this summer. So from 2 or 3 incidents a week, we're going to go to 2 or 3 incidents a night in the peak. And again,
Midnight
these
to
are
5 a.m.
yeah. Well, then they started moving the goalposts. They say, okay, well, we're really only going to measure from 12 to 5. But these are cargo is a big one. But the ones that are actually quite beneficial for the area, they're bringing in some direct flights from Taipei, Manila. I mean, they're long distance flights. So these are big, heavy airplanes. So unless they're what they call what is that, an RON, return the next day kind of thing?
Yeah.
Unless they're going to park them, then if they're going to turn them around and send them out of here early in the morning at 3 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning, they're going to go out of here full of fuel and full of people. So they're going to be the big heavies that leave.
747s.
Yeah. So that's the message with that one. Although there were some other interesting things on page hard stand. Thank you. Yeah. Basically, there are current trends in here someplace that late night flights, tax stuff, they are hard stand. One of the other things that is areas that they're picking up on is what they call their hard stand operations. I don't know if any of you have been out there, and they bus you out to an airplane that's parked out north of those operations are increasing also. So be prepared for expansion of the terminal.
Yeah, as far as we can tell, they don't have any more land they can get, so they're going to be tearing down some of their own buildings and replacing them with terminals.
This one is, again, this is the next one is the Noise Working Group Program Update. So START's divided up into Policy Working Group. It was primarily focused on federal policy, and then the second was the Noise Policy Working Group. The Noise Policy Working Group is, I think, right now they're focusing on that late night noise limitation program. And about the best thing I can say about this is they do have a program, but it's entirely voluntary. There's no, there are exceedances, and we get that report. It's a report that's done, reported out to the airlines every 3 months, once a quarter. And from what I can see, in the one report we've reviewed, it's honored more in the breach than in the observation. So there's.
But they do have an award ceremony.
Yeah, they do have an award ceremony. So right now, this is really focused on the late night. There's one interesting thing in here, though, is that as the activity rebounds, so are the comments. And they have a variety of ways that people can call, and that's on this page if you're interested in that. And then they have monthly comparisons of the noise comments. And what's really interesting to me is this is April 2024. We're in the top 3. I guess we're number 3 in the total number of comments. But Vashon is way ahead of us at about 5,200. And Seattle is at 3,200. So we're not even, areas that are probably 5 miles way away from the airport are complaining more than we're complaining.
They don't use the word complaint, they use the word comments.
It's comments. Then this one, we just got this one at the meeting 2 days ago, and it's single-engine taxiing. And I bring this up because by their own standards, by their own proposal here, it's really not going to make any difference. It's a totally voluntary program. And what they're basically doing is they're going out to the airline and say, hey, can you just use one engine to taxi out? And there is a certain noise level, that's for sure. And if you've ever been out there, like we were the other day, and seen 16 airplanes lined up ready to take off, there's a constant level of noise. Taxiing with one engine is going to make a very small amount of, and so again, as a citizen, my comment is that they sat down, and again, these are well-meaning people, they're intelligent people, but they've sat around in a meeting like this. How many meetings they sat around in, who knows? They came up with some language, and they made a point of going down the line one at a time and having us raise our hands that we approve the language. To me, this is just window dressing. This is just so that they can say they have a program, so when some grumpy old guy on North Hill complains, they say, well, we have this program. Well, frankly, I would rather that they spent their time and energy working with the airlines on how to do things like get more people on, move more people with fewer number of airplanes. But they're not, some of these things are just purely window dressing for the community. And frankly, since we're taxpayers, it's kind of a waste of time.
I think to maybe kind of wrap this up a little bit, but kind of the crescendo for us, when we kind of go, oh, boy, it just took the wind out of our sails, is when the representative from the FAA stated that this is going to be like a 3 to 4 year study, but the port has the final say. Nobody really has anything else to say about it. We're just all along for the ride. And that's when we talked to each other after that last phone call, going, well, what are we here for?
Well, and then
are we here to check a box?
And then you have to understand, there's a sheet in here someplace where the port actually sits down, okay, here's where our authority lies. And frankly, they have very little authority to deal with the airplanes at all. I mean, they can recommend, but it's really up to the FAA. But we don't get to talk to the FAA. There is some FAA representation on the committee, but actually that's in a turnover kind of thing, so we haven't heard from them. But the port really, when it comes right down to it, they can't do anything to help us.
And they have the money, so we keep looking for, and this is, we're still getting started, but we keep looking for opportunities for mitigation, which means some sort of compensation for the noise. I don't see a pathway yet within the START or within that. We did see that Congressman Smith has Des Moines in a bill for $4 million or something. He posted it, and so we've got there's a link to it. You can see all the different cities that are in Adam Smith's bill proposal. Des Moines is in there for some money, but it's a one-time. It's not a year over year like we think we know SeaTac gets. We're looking for that opportunity to get year over year compensation for the noise in simple terms.
The last one and the largest part is this Part 150. Say this is where it really starts to impact, where we start to see how this is going to roll out. The Part 150, and again, there's a lot I don't understand about this, but essentially, they don't. I thought that there'd be a bunch of people wandering around in vests and with little instruments, and they'd be taking sound readings all over the place. No, they essentially do this with a computer model. So they, like Steve said, they have all the characteristics of the airplane, and they know exactly how many take off. They know when they take off. They know what the weather conditions are. They pump all of this stuff into a huge computer, and they come up with the DNL 65 map. And if you take a look at, first on their page 16 is the one that is really sort of important, because that's the one that says, that's the regulatory framework where it says, basically, here's here's what we can do, and here's, more importantly, what we can't do. So 15 and 16 are pages, the pages that are pretty important to us. And right at the end, they say federal law takes precedence over state and local regulations. So they want to make sure that they get that out there. Like Steve said, on page 23, they talk about how they go about doing this. And again, I don't have anywhere near enough knowledge about this to probably adequately cover it. And Jason, our subject matter expert, isn't here tonight. But if you take a look at page 23, that's this one with all the little airplanes on it. And they talk about equivalence. So they talk about the duration of these events, single event sound levels. They talk about 1 hour of events. And essentially what they're doing is they're coming up with a weighted average of the sound. And that's how they come up with the new contours for the sound. But again, it's a weighted average. So if you take a look at this one down at the bottom, the question I have in my mind, and again, you have to be a fairly knowledgeable mathematician to figure this all out, but if they're just averaging this out, are we just going to fill up all the the low spots in here? You know, at what point do they say, okay, we're going to move the boundary? And it looks like the way they do this, where 100, at the bottom you can see that 100 events at SELs at 94.4 equal a DNL of 65. So you can have a lot of noise out there and still average it out to 65.
We kind of have to wrap it up a little bit, but
The only closing comment I would make is that if we wanted to start something now, is to start having conversations with Adam Smith.
Yeah.
Because we've got, at least we both came to the same conclusion, we've got very little, if not any, leverage. So we'll get that if we start having conversations, maybe with Adam Smith, and see if that can bear any fruit.
Well, there's other things out there that we don't hear anything about. The technologies that are out there in the regulated navigational performances, in the what the next one they call the glide path. Anyway, there's a lot of technology out there that is coming on in terms of quieter engines and quieter procedures, and we don't hear anything about that. And our question as citizens is, who's going to speak up about that? Who's going to make sure that gets into the conversation? And frankly, the port can't do anything about that. That's all FAA.
colleagues, questions, comments?
It's a lot, I can imagine, yes. The fire hose, as you're talking, handed us 5 presentations here. Can you tell me more, I know that there are other cities that have START committees, so who all is with you when you are discussing this? Because another approach would be, what can we bring together? What cities or entities can we bring together to try and get some momentum?
Well, that's, there's all the airport communities, and I'm not going to get them all, but it really starts Federal Way, us, Burien, Normandy Park, SeaTac.
There's some city managers in
Tukwila,
there,
yeah.
it's
So-
hot, but they're all in the meetings
Yeah,
at different
they're all in the
levels.
meetings, and yes,
I
that
don't think
would
there's
be-
any other that have two like us
Yeah.
in there. It's usually somebody
and-
some
and
elected official or
some are-
appointed official.
You know, and it's hard to say, but even now, my sense of it is, we're not all impacted this equally. And so some cities are gonna be more impacted than others, and that's gonna sort of reference how they respond to this whole thing. So, yeah, it would be great if we all had one big unified voice, but that's gonna be hard to achieve, in my opinion.
Then they break it up in different working groups, so you assign yourself to a different working group.
So,
And then there's a steering committee that we don't go into.
So this is far too large a conversation for, and I hope you guys will come back. I have a quick closing comment. This is almost entirely performative. And it's akin to The Wizard of Oz, where if you really watch the movie at the end, she could have just clicked her heels 3 times, you know, like 3 minutes in, but then you wouldn't have a movie. And every few years, very well-meaning people get together and restudy the same stuff, and you get worn out or disheartened or what have you. There is a lot that can be done. I brought you the 2 images, the one of the DNL 65 and the one of that window. I will report to council. The survey has only gone out to 3,200 homes out of 9,400 plus that actually receive port packages. I've been told that those are the only homes that will be eligible for any update program. That's just unconscionable to me. But I would ask that you would be open to further conversations so that you can go and bring new issues on their agenda, because since I've been watching, basically the port and to a lesser extent the city of SeaTac set the entire agenda. And they have very different interests than the city of Des Moines, as I'm sure you're starting to see. So we should be asking for things that represent our interests. And I appreciate the fact that you've seen the need for compensation. I'll just leave you with one little bit of hope. It could have happened 25 years ago. It was just, we took a different strategic path, and I'll just leave it at that. And thank you so much for your showing up today. Yeah, but again, this is the beginning, not not the end. Just if in the couple of minutes left, if I always try to leave a couple of minutes if somebody wants to make a public comment on something. Anybody in the audience? Please approach the podium and state your name and where you live, and make it quick.
I'm Martha Hamilton in Des Moines. I'm in the Zenith neighborhood. I just have a question for the committee, which is, are you aware of the huge barriers for ADUs or cottage homes regarding utility hookups? And if you are you taking a look at the Washington Department of Commerce guidelines for the ADUs, because they have quite a bit of information in there regarding ways that cities can support homeowners being part of the solution. So my question is, do you have this on your radar screen? And if you don't, would you be willing to take a look?
I've had a number of residents ask about it. We're having a change in the building department and so on, but I'm certainly going to raise that issue.
Thank you.
So with that, thank you to everyone for for showing up. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
We're out of here. Thank you.